Welcome back. It's Sunday and I'm going to be reading Geronimo Stilton Adventures. I'm going to be continuing the journey through time. If you missed all the other episodes from the very beginning of the book, I have it in a playlist under, I think I have it under Journey Through Time or Geronimo Stilton Adventures. So let's get started. Last time they were in Egypt and they just finished getting into the Mouse Mover 3000 time machine, and that zipped them all the way to Britain. I think in the Middle Ages, like King Arthur time. Let's find out what happens. I know this is going to be a great one. When we finally stopped moving, Professor Von Volt opened the porthole cautiously. "Look!" the professor exclaimed. "There's Camelot Castle." We climbed out of the Mouse Mover 3000 and gaped at the enormous castle before us. Once again, the professor reached into his pocket and pulled out 5 teeny tiny miniaturized costumes. Professor Von Volt used his secret potion to restore the clothes to their normal size. I pulled on my brown tunic, green coat, striped tights, pointed shoes, leather satchel, and hat with a red feather. Then the professor handed us each 5 coins. "I'll give each of you 3 copper coins, 1 silver coin, and 1 gold coin," he said. "The copper coins can buy you dinner. The silver coins can buy you a sword, and the gold coin can buy you a horse. Use them well." I put the coins in the leather satchel and slipped it across my chest. We hid the Mouse Mover 3000 behind a rock, covered it with moss, and headed towards the castle. "We're now in Camelot, Britain, where, according to legend, the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table unfolded," Professor Von Volt told us. "Our adventure is about to begin." By the time we reached the castle, the sun had set. The castle was surrounded by a very deep moat, and the drawbridge was raised. The flag flying in front of the castle had an image of a flea on it. How odd! "Let's pretend we are a troupe of actors," Professor Von Volt suggested. "That way we'll blend in." Then he shouted towards the castle, "Hello, citizens of Camelot!" A tiny window opened and a snout appeared. "Who is it? Who goes there?" the sentry asked. "What does Camelot have to do with anything? This is Flea Flicker Castle." "What?" the professor whispered to us. "We came to the wrong place. How odd." "Open the gate. We're actors." "How do I know you're telling the truth?" the sentry asked suspiciously. Trap began juggling several colored balls in the air. Pop, pop, pop. He managed to catch each one and send it into the air again. "See?" Trap said. "And my oldest friend here plays the flute. The maiden sings, and the little one is a jester." The sentry pointed to me. "What about the one with the butterflies on his nose?" he said. "Butterflies? Oh, he must be talking about my glasses." I said, taking a step forward. "I'm a minstrel." "Really?" the sentry asked. "Then recite a poem." Holy cheese, my mind went blank. I couldn't come up with anything. "Think of something quick," Trap whispered as he pinched my tail, so I improvised. "Oh, mouse in the castle, please let us come in. Our show is so cheesy, you'll laugh and you'll grin. Our music and jokes are better than the rest, and my rhymes, you can see, are simply the best." The sentry shook his head. That's nothing special about that poem. But I'll let you in anyway, he said. We're bored. There's nothing to do here. Even if your show stinks, it will still be entertaining. With a creak, the drawbridge came down. A short, one-eyed mouse with ruffled whiskers came to meet us. Follow me, he said. I'm Cyclops McMouse. As we followed him through the courtyard, I looked around me. In one corner, a blacksmith was forging a horseshoe on an anvil. Nearby, a farmer loaded hay on a cart. The baker was taking crispy loaves of rye bread out of an oven, whilst an apprentice was weaving on the loom inside the tailor shop. Cyclops McMouse took us through the maze of passageways until we came to a vast hall paved with black and white stones. Small torches on the walls cast an eerie glow. There was a glowing fireplace on the other end of the hall, but the space was so enormous that our side of the room was freezing cold. Here and there hung embroidered tapestries depicting great medieval scenes. Cyclops McMouse lowered his voice. Be careful what you say, he warned. Sir Flea Flicker isn't a very trusting mouse. If he doesn't like the looks of you, he'll chop off your head. I was worried. His son, Flea Flicker Jr., is the same way, Cyclops continued. He loves to see heads roll. Oh, I'm not worried, Trap said confidently. Leave it to me. I'll entertain them with my most incredible jokes. Like this one. What do you call a mosquito in a tin suit? A bite in shining armor. On the other end of the hall, I saw a very long table covered with food. Knights were sitting at it and talking. Some were playing chess. In the corner, the ladies were busy embroidering as they talked and talked. Sir Flea Flicker, the lord of the castle, was short and stocky, with a stubby nose and disheveled fur. He wore a long purple velvet coat embroidered with little golden fleas that was stained with greasy spots. At his right was his son, Flea Flicker Jr., a big mouse with greasy fur, mangy whiskers, and crooked yellow teeth. Cyclops bowed until his whiskers touched the ground. Oh, noble sir, he announced loudly, a troupe of actors has come with the hopes of enlivening and sober night. This sober night. I peeked at Sir Flea Flicker to see what effect this introduction might have had. He scratched himself. Scratched, scratched, scratched. Then he squashed a flea. Squish. Sir Flea Flicker mumbled. If they don't entertain me, chop off their heads. Right, Cyclops McMouse agreed. If they don't entertain us, chop, chop. All of the knights shouted at the same time, chop, 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 chop. A rat wearing a black hood stepped forward. There's someone to decapitate, huh? He asked gruffly. I want to test my new axe. He tore out one of his whiskers, tossed it in the air, and it cut with his axe. Chop! Even Trap looked worried now. Cousin, say something poetic, or they'll chop off our heads, he whispered as he pinched my tail. Don't rush me, I squeaked. I can't think under pressure. I didn't know what to say, so I tried to flatter the mean, scruffy Sir Flea Flicker. "Oh, Sir Flea Flicker, so noble and wise, we're so glad to meet you and all of your guys. Your castle is mighty, your knights are quite brave, and the cheese that you serve, the locals all crave." Sir Flea Flicker replied, "Not bad. I didn't know my cheese was so popular." I breathed a sigh of release. We're all saved. But then he looked at Trap, Thea, and Professor and Benjamin. "What about these four?" he asked suspiciously. "What can they do?" Trap began telling joke after joke after joke.
"Why did the king go to the dentist? To get his teeth crowned. Ha 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 ha. What king of medieval England was famous because he spent so much nights at his round table writing books? King Arthur."
Professor Von Volt began to play a merry melody. Thea sang, and Benjamin danced a little jig. The procession of servants entered the hall, carrying pewter dishes of meat, chestnut fritters, quince, jelly, blueberry jam, dried figs, and raisins. Last in line was a tiny little servant around Benjamin's age. He was struggling to carry an enormous pie that was decorated with a tiny flag bearing the Flea Flicker castle emblem. As the tiny servant made his way to the table, he tripped on one of the knight's swords and fell. The pie ended up on Sir Flea Flicker's face. The Lord's snout turned bright red with embarrassment. "Get that mouse!" he shouted. To save the little mouselet, Trap grabbed 3 apples and began juggling them in the air. He was trying to distract Sir Flea Flicker. Trap jumped up on the table. He balanced the spoon on the tip of his snout and spun a pewter dish on top of the spoon. Meanwhile, he continued juggling the apples whilst his tail waved a little flag that had been on the pie. Everyone in the court was amazed. "Hooray!" they shouted loudly. Trap put down all his props as his grand finale, he took a piece of pie and threw it in the nearest knight's face. Splat! I held my breath, waiting to see how Sir Flea Flicker would react. But after a moment of shock, he laughed so hard he almost choked. Then he began throwing pieces of pie at his guests. It was a food fight with pie. Everyone burst out laughing. I sighed with relief. The little servant was safe. While the food fight continued, I approached the trembling mouselet. He was as pale as a slice of mozzarella. "Everything's fine, little one," I reassured him. "Don't be afraid. What's your name?" "Crouton, sir," he replied softly. "I'm an orphan. I don't have a mother or a father." As we were talking, a messenger sounded 3 blasts on the trumpet and handed Sir Flea Flicker a piece of parchment. Doot 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 doot. The trumpeter sounded again. Doot 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 doot. "Stop tooting in my ear!" Sir Flea Flicker shouted. "Oof!" Then he read the parchment. "Oh, son, get ready!" he shouted with excitement. "All of Britannia's knights are on their way here to Flea Flicker Castle. A grand tournament will be held, and the winner will become the new king." "Papa, are you saying I'll be the next king?" Flea Flicker Jr. shouted. Huh? Until next time, we'll continue the story. Have a great day.